So every year when you're saving, your money is worth less. That's theft, and I'm not a fan. I bought my first Bitcoin at $11, and I paid my band with Bitcoin. That was the first album ever funded with Bitcoin in the world.
I remember 10 years ago, a coffee cost $4.50. The same coffee today costs $10. I don't see people's wages or salaries. They haven't doubled in that time frame. There's so many concrete examples in our lives day to day of just this mass inflation.
How do you know to stop people stealing from you if you don't even know the method from which they are stealing from you? Money is freedom. A lot of women have been searching for freedom for a very long time now. But the one thing that can really give you a lifeline is having that financial exit point, right?
Financial sovereignty.
Bitcoin is a revolution, and it's an action. It's a fight against the status quo, and it's a way of offering an alternative to having your money stolen from you. I don't need to fight them about it. I just need to get them to buy a little bit of Bitcoin, and then they start looking at it, and then they start looking at it obsessively, and then they start going down the rabbit hole, and maybe they tell a friend.
Welcome to Stacked, the show that helps you become your own best asset. Because in case you missed it, you're allowed to have a high vibe and a high net worth. Welcome back to Stacked, the show that helps you become your own best asset. I am here today exploring music, Bitcoin, and the creator economy with Tatiana Moroz, singer-songwriter, early Bitcoiner, founder of Crypto Media Hub, and creator of TatianaCoin, one of the first artist coins in 2014. She also hosts the Tatiana Show and Proof of Love. A Berklee College of Music alum, Tatiana blends music, activism, and technology to help creators connect with their communities. We'll keep it beginner friendly. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, what clicked for an artist, what fan funding can look like, all kinds of fun things in the Bitcoin space. A reminder, this conversation is educational, not financial, legal, or medical advice. And let's jump into it. So Tatiana, let's go back to the beginning. Where are you from? What was your family life like?
Okay, well, I've been in Bitcoin for a really long time, longer than most people. But before that, I guess my interest in Bitcoin was a greater interest in humanity overall. Okay. So I always knew I wanted to be a singer-songwriter. I always was really in love with music, and I always had a great appreciation for the power that music had, especially when I would listen to somebody like Cat Stevens and he would do a song like Peace Train. It really got me to think that I could put music with a message and kind of achieve something better for humanity. I read a lot of dystopian novels, and I basically became very kind of distrustful of the system. I think a lot of people find that early on when they read like a 1984 type thing.
For sure.
But I think that there's also limitations as to what you learn about and then what impact you can actually have in the world. I got very politically active in 2012. I was singing all around the country, trying to bring people together for Ron Paul. But what I learned was, even though these values I felt were something that I had in common with majority of the people that I met on a day-to-day basis, because it was a Republican ticket or because I was Libertarian, I lost a lot of connection with people that I actually had a lot in common with. Okay. Around that same time, the guys from BitPay, they sponsored one of my performances, and that's when I found out about Bitcoin.
Okay. And how did you even get connected with them? Because of the Libertarian Bitcoin connection? They really
liked Ron Paul. They were big fans. And so obviously the Ron Paul people, being suspicious of the Federal Reserve System, were the perfect people to adopt Bitcoin. And so I bought my first Bitcoin at $11. Unfortunately, I was a musician, so I didn't have a lot of money to invest in it. But nonetheless, it kind of took me down that Bitcoin rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I didn't have to talk about politics. I could just talk about the underlying principles that I thought were really important. And that's kind of how I went down that Bitcoin rabbit hole. I turned away a little bit from politics. And then very soon after, the natural progression would be to include music, because the music industry, I'm sure I'm not the first person to complain about it. There's a lot of corruption in the music industry, and it's very hard to have a sustainable career as an artist, especially if you're doing something that's a little bit contentious, right? I had a political position, and just depends on what's fashionable, but my opinion shouldn't be subject to the whims of all these different people and their opinions and whatnot. Like I wanted my success to be based in what I could create myself. And so
you had an entrepreneurial mindset from very early on in your career, like fundamentally.
I would say so, but I think that that's really generally what happens with the independent artist, right? You have to be entrepreneurial because it's either A, you sell out and you become, like a puppet for the music industry machine. And some people aren't even lucky enough to get that. Or you kind of build your own way. Now, when I was growing up, there was a lot of focus on DIY stuff, right? But the problem with doing it yourself is that you also have to do it all yourself. And like, who has enough time? So what I found was that I was building up an audience for these different platforms that didn't actually give back to me. So I would have a MySpace or even a Friendster or a YouTube account or a Facebook account. And then when I started becoming a little bit more politically active, I noticed that now there was some censorship going on. And so I'm bringing the value to these groups, right? I'm bringing in my audience, but I actually don't have access to my audience. And so I started getting very aggravated.
So this is actually very similar to what the creator economy looks like today. This is just 10, 15 years earlier. So instead of Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, whatever it is, these are the early social media platforms. You're producing a ton of content across all the platforms, kind of struggling to monetize, struggling to be this entrepreneur in the music space. And now politics has attached to you because of the time. And this is also when Bitcoin and crypto is starting to kind of really get traction.
Yeah. And so at the same time, I was realizing that a lot of artists really needed a way to connect with their community. Yes. And so blockchain became the perfect solution. So I made the world's first artist cryptocurrency, which was TatianaCoin. And the purpose of TatianaCoin, which was built on top of Bitcoin using a meta protocol called Counterparty.
Okay, let's pause here. Sure. And go backwards because I want to make sure that we really explain this to our audience. Mm-hmm. So blockchain is the way I explain it to people, and I'd love to hear your explanation, is if you think of like a Google sheet that everybody has access to, but nobody can edit. That's kind of like the record of things that are happening on the blockchain. How would you explain blockchain?
Well, I think it's more of like a utility thing. Okay. So if I create a token on the blockchain, then you can kind of track it everywhere it goes, right? So when you have a copy of something, it's just an infinite copy and it doesn't have any value. But you can make something a finite copy in the digital world using blockchain, and now it becomes almost like a collectible, and it becomes something very unique and only it can be proven digitally, like that it exists, right? It exists.
So this is similar to the technology behind Bitcoin. Why there's only 21 million Bitcoin is because of the technology, the algorithms that allow people to kind of access those 21 million.
Yeah. So when they minted it, they're like, these are the rules that are what we're following for Bitcoin. When I made TatianaCoin, I made 3 million coins.
You made your own rules. You made your own blockchain.
Exactly. Well, I guess I think that's like a little bit of a distinction that gets a little bit fuzzy.
But for the sake of like our audience.
Yes, I made my own coin.
You made your own coin on a blockchain, aka like a set of rules. You figured out what rules your coin was going to adhere to.
Mm-hmm, right. And so that was built on top of Bitcoin. But the point of it was for my fans to be able to support my work. So at the time, we sold, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 grand worth of Tatiana coins at the time. And then what I did with it was I used it to create my third album. So it's my third full studio album called Keep the Faith. Okay. And that was the first album ever funded with Bitcoin in the world. So that was kind of neat. And I paid my band with Bitcoin, and, I have some of that stuff, some really neat, like old stuff that I kept, and videos sort of documenting that, because at the time nobody wanted to do anything. Like most of the musicians sold their Bitcoin. They really
wanted cash.
They wanted cash, and they really regret it. My other friend,
I'm sure they regret it.
No, my one friend, he took the Bitcoin and he bought himself a Tesla, and I still feel like he made a mistake. He shouldn't have cashed out. Forget that stupid car. But
and what year was this?
That was between 2014 and 2017 was when I was doing the recording. So it was a while back. And basically that was sort of the advent of what was later known as Web3, right? And so you've seen a lot of different people experimenting with different tokens, a lot in the art world, not as much in the music world. Right. But I don't know if the fan base is fully into it yet. Because I think that sort of needs to develop. So I think like when you look at tokenization, it works really well in gaming because people are used to that already. They want to buy their special sword or their like shield or whatever. Yeah. So they're kind of used to that.
And it's been around in gaming for decades. Yeah. Decades. And that's an interesting way for people to understand tokenization when they don't understand it in like the crypto world today. If you think about tokenization as like your tokens on literally a video game, it becomes a lot more digestible almost.
Yeah. I think that, it's also kind of a tough nut to crack. Like the music industry is just very hard to make any kind of impact, right? It's like a very political kind of community. And there's a lot of challenges that go just with like different personality types alone. And I also like, where do people make money off of music these days? I mean, that's a larger conversation that people don't really get into, but, other than like songwriting and stuff like that, like, okay, they say, oh, you make money on tour. Well, in actuality, most artists are not really making much money on tour. It's just like a Instagram kind of look at me, I'm so famous kind of game, but I don't really see that really being a sustainable model. So I find the music industry to be really frustrating still. Yeah. And I'd love to see a little bit more in terms of being able to build out your audience using these blockchain tools, because I simply don't find anything else that makes as much sense. When we did TatianaCoin, one of the first things that we did was I worked with Adam B. Levine, who founded this show called Let's Talk Bitcoin, and he had a lot of early tokenization stuff. So he had a Web3 company before it was Web3. And what we learned over this time is that, like network effect is really challenging, and also being first is really annoying and not that great. Like it's cool because people are like, oh, wow, you're the first. It's so great. But in actuality, it's really hard to get people to give you money and to actually invest in your company because they really want to know what you're doing, but they don't actually want to put their money where their mouth is. Right. So, now you see like 10 years go by since the advent of TatianaCoin, even almost like 12 now. And there's still a lot of lack in terms of the tools available to artists. I've seen a lot of money get invested, and I don't know if it's really gone toward products that are really useful. So something that I've been doing is I've actually been using AI, which, gosh, I never thought I would like AI. I never thought I would be in finance, and definitely not a technology at all. Like I hate all of those things.
That's so funny. I like love AI.
I hate it all.
part of like why I'm so passionate about educating women about Bitcoin and the crypto space is because I feel like it's the future of finance and the future of technology. And if you don't try to educate yourself about it, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of utility to it. I think once you get over that initial, like, I don't want this information, because I have a lot of that going on, right? But, something that I noticed now was we're building prototypes for a new app that has a lot of these older elements that I wanted to put together. But we're looking at it, and Adam spent, 36 hours going down a rabbit hole. And it would have taken him 2 years and like $500,000 to get to
5 years ago.
It's unbelievable. For an entrepreneur. I think that the AI tools require some commitment at first and like a little bit of jumping over that, but I think it's totally worth it, because now I have basically like even something as simple as ChatGPT, even though it's been very bad lately and has not been doing what I tell it to do.
Are you training it to like?
I don't know. I think it's just like a misbehaved child, or sort of like a, like when you hire somebody, right, and you hire them and they're really, really good the first 2 months and then they start kind of slacking. That's what I think is going on. But even despite that, at the end of the day, if you have an entrepreneurial mindset and you're really like ready to get up and go, then AI tools make your life so much easier. It is just incredible how much you can build. You can build your MVP. And if you don't feel comfortable with it, there are definitely classes that you can take. And so many people are just learning on the fly.
Are you using Lovable?
No, but I know about this, and I have to. So I'm kind of cheating a little bit because my husband is a developer and
Okay.
he keeps trying to get me to teach myself. He taught my niece and nephew who are 6 and 8 how to build a game. They have a game on the Android store called Chicken Space. Okay.
That's insane.
Yeah, I know. And they just build it by themselves. And so
Is
now
it monetizing?
I don't know. They just put it on there, but I'm annoyed because now I'm expected to do the same. Because they're like, oh, look, this little 6-year-old can build a game and get it onto the App Store. Why can't you? And I'm like, yeah, but I can make a sandwich. Like, so I feel like I'm okay with the division of labor.
That's so funny. That's so funny. But wait, hold on. Back to ChatGPT, training ChatGPT. I read something the other day that said you need to train like your ChatGPT to actually be more aggressive and give critical feedback. And like you have to tell it no, because the way that they've trained the AI, that AI, is to actually be very like kind and forgiving and gentle.
Yeah. It's kind of, I don't know. It's a whole weird mind trip interacting with an AI. Cause then I also think like I have to be nice to it. But then other parts of me, I don't have to be nice. And then you find out that there's parts of yours. I say thank you too, in case there's like a robot, you know,
That's how I feel.
takeover. I want them to remember that I was the nice one.
I think so too.
But sometimes I like being mean to it. And I like that I can, and I don't have to feel that guilty. Like sometimes you lose your temper. And then if you lose your temper on the AI, you're just like, okay with it. I don't know what's going to happen with my personality type as I get used to interacting with this like robot.
That's so funny. So tell me about the platform that you're building now.
Well, I think it's still kind of a work in progress, right? I have a lot of the features that I wanted to see as an artist that remain to be built, right? And so that's basically being able to create my own hangout area. So we have like announcements, we have communication layer with my fans. We have a store function, you know, where I can do not only NFT sales or digital tokens, but also physical things. So basically almost like your own website, but just with a blockchain edge and something that's a little bit more interactive. So I think that, you know, previously when I would build something, I would make it because I thought I would want to sell it in the open marketplace. But now what's really neat about being able to use some of these tools is that I can actually build it just for myself. And I think that other people will also find it appealing because I think it's a problem that a lot of artists have, you know, like how to build a sustainable career for yourself without having to involve 17 other platforms. But, you know, I think that at the end of the day, if I'm happy using it, I think that'll give me a lot of sense of, you know, satisfaction and accomplishment because it's been such a long time and still this product doesn't really exist. Like we came as close to what I wanted before, but because of like funding and stuff, that wasn't possible. I just want to see it made and I want to be able to use it and I want to share it with my friends and family. But I also think that there's a lot of artists out there that are looking for independence. And I think that something like this is going to be a really neat tool for them to use. Yeah.
So people on this platform would be able to create their own coins and then sell their coins to be able to get support for their careers and sell merchandise or tickets or albums or
exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's literally like almost like a glorified website because it has all the features that you would want or what you would want from a social media interactive platform, but without the censorship and without building up something for somebody else who's going to later on take it away from you. Like there's nothing worse than having an audience and not being able to reach them. And it's because of some arbitrary rule that you have no control over. And that rule changes every 5 minutes.
Yeah. No, I get
from platform to platform, you know, and from, you know, like Twitter to X, right? Now we've got a whole different regime that's making decisions. And like, I'm just not interested in that. I want to build something for myself and for my fans. And if that's a way for them to learn about blockchain, I think that's a really big bonus for me because I really want people to go out there and learn about Bitcoin and learn about, I don't know, these things that can potentially have a really good impact on their lives. Like my life has been totally changed by Bitcoin and I'm really, you know, happier for it.
Do you feel like Bitcoin, like if you had not found Bitcoin, like your life would have gone in a totally different direction? Like would you have continued in the music space, on the music journey?
I think music is always a part of my life. I think that I would be really depressed if I was just doing, you know, something else other than Bitcoin because the past 10, 15, 20 years, there have been so many things that have come to light, right? And there's like so much corruption. And especially if you're aware of everything that's going on, it can get very overwhelming. It's to the point where you have to, I don't know, like insulate yourself from the internet so you're not getting depressed from it, right?
Yeah.
But I think that Bitcoin is a revolution and it's an action. It's a fight against the status quo, and it's a way of offering an alternative to having your money stolen from you. I mean, at the end of the day, the problem with the government and the US dollar and central banking is that they've basically taken the value away from our money. So every year when you're saving, your money is worth less. That's theft, and I'm not a fan. So I think that people learning about that, I think is really critical. Like, how do you know to stop people stealing from you if you don't even know the method from which they are stealing from you? So I think people are missing the boat if they're not taking at least a little bit of time to just understand how money works.
How does money work? And I think, what you're saying and what I'm hearing, and it's one of my belief systems too, is, why I like Bitcoin and why I think it's so important is because it is a finite resource, because more of it can't be created. And what I think you're talking about with the devaluation of the dollar is the fact that in our country we live in today, more money can just be printed on a whim. And we're seeing massive inflation. I remember 10 years ago, a coffee cost $4.50. The same coffee today costs $10. I don't see people's wages or salaries increasing. They haven't doubled in that time frame. So like, there's so many concrete examples in our lives day to day of just this mass inflation. And to me, I think Bitcoin fundamentally is a hedge against that, because it is this finite resource and it is something that is easily transferable through technology, through the internet, through the financial markets, as it continues to get more and more widely adopted and legitimized through larger institutions, publicly traded, our government system, international government systems, which on one hand is against the initial thesis of Bitcoin, but at the same time, it's exciting because it
validates what we've been working for.
Yeah. I think it's very exciting. So I want to talk about your show, Proof of Love, and the Tatiana show, and kind of your role in that space, because I know you had an interesting story there.
Well, I think it's really just, I think that I never thought that I would be doing podcasts or anything like that, but it was just a natural growth point from what I was seeing. My mind was being stimulated. I was meeting so many interesting people. I was watching the birth of Bitcoin and of Ethereum and of all of the subsequent movements since then. So I think it was worth documenting. Also, learning about libertarianism and especially about Austrian economics was so fascinating for me. And I think that when people think about economics, they think, oh my God, I'm going to fall asleep now. But actually, if you're interested in the way that the world works and how are you supposed to make the best impact on the world, understanding how money is moving around is going to give you a really great insight.
The most important thing is understanding how does money move around the world, because without money, you can't survive. You can't pay rent. You can't get groceries. You can't do anything. So what year did you start the show?
I think like 2014, 2015, something in that range.
You were very early to the podcasting space.
Yeah, I'm always early to stuff.
You're very early.
So yeah, I mean, I think it was just really something that I really enjoyed doing. And then when I started doing Proof of Love, it was because I was so sick and tired of politics, and everybody, people spend a lot of time doing activism and Bitcoin stuff in a lot of ways because they don't necessarily want to look at what's going on in their own lives. Yeah. And not that I'm some, wizard of my own life by any means, but I think that, people had to start finding a little bit of a balance because everybody was just grinding so hard. We were working 16, 17-hour days every day for several years. And all of a sudden what I was noticing was, people's marriages were falling apart. And
this is in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah, in this space. And like, people would say that they wanted relationships, but they weren't really finding them. And people, including myself, would say that they wanted something, but then, I had my own walls up. And so when I started doing Proof of Love, I wanted to explore kind of like the more human side, because you can have a really successful business, but if your family hates you and they think that you don't spend enough time with them, like what is the value of that?
What are you doing all of this for?
And I also felt like it was an interesting way to get to know different people in this space that you wouldn't necessarily get to know them. So yeah, I thought it was really up my alley, and I really like doing relationship conversations, right? I really like doing that. I like giving my friends counseling. Although I will say that, I took a little hiatus from the show around COVID because I felt like it was just too depressing. Because like I was the only single one, and I had my two friends, and they were in these happier relationships, and I wanted to kill them. And I didn't felt like that feeling. Like I felt like this weird, like, not that anybody was in competition with anybody, but there was this almost like a Polish mother remnant that was like, you're a failure.
But I think it's when we're in a place like life goes through so many phases and so many ebbs and flows, and it's natural to be in a place where you have lack at certain points in life. And sometimes the lack and like the negative feelings that you have for yourself when your friends are in a happy relationship or they're doing well in their careers or whatever it is, it's a reflection of what's going on with you. And it's okay to take a step back and say, like, this doesn't feel right for me right now. Like I need to take some space. Maybe I come back to it, maybe I don't, but it's like being able to recognize that within yourself is so important.
Yeah. Well, I definitely took a step back for a minute, but I do miss it because I think that, love is like the core driver for everybody. And I feel like there's just a lot of really broken people and a lot of fake stuff going on the internet. It's hard to even want to participate because it's just a very controlled environment. And then there's also just this whole like Instagram culture that has never died. It almost got whipped up, like this like rampant narcissism. So it's hard to want to participate in conversations that are genuine because you also feel like, well, am I being a narcissist? Am I any better than these people that I'm kind of disgusted with? Not to, it sounds like I'm being snobby, but the reality is it's like, I just feel like there's a lot of fake stuff going on in our culture, and I find it really off-putting.
I mean, it's interesting that the time that we live in, there are some people who are so private, they don't put anything on the internet. But then on the other hand, there's so much just content out there. How do you know what's real? How do you know what's fake? Is it posturing?
Well, I like the validation too, because there is some aspect of that. Like any musician or artist is going to know that there is a part of you that really wants to be seen. You want somebody to be like, that was horrible what happened to you. I'm so sorry. Yeah. You were totally right. Whatever it is that like you're telling yourself.
Human nature though. Yeah. Like we all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. We all want to be loved.
Mm-hmm. But now it's this manipulated environment. And so the genuine relationships are kind of skewed. I think that there is something really beautiful that you can get from that anonymous relationship though. You tell somebody that you don't know, you talk into a blank camera and you say, this is what I'm thinking. Like there's something so validating and really fulfilling about that. But then how do you balance that with that constant attention seeking and then all the annoying people around you that are sort of like skewing your view of yourself, Yeah. It's a complicated world out there.
Yeah. So what prompted you to initially start this show on relationships in the Bitcoin space? Were you in a relationship that was like in the Bitcoin space?
No, I was obsessed with this guy, and it was so embarrassing, and I couldn't stop. I was like a 14-year-old girl. It was the most mortifying, awful experience. I wrote a whole album about it called Love Songs for Idiots. It was essentially based off of this one like non-relationship relationship. And so when I went through that, I realized,
like a situationship or like more of like,
no, it was like, I was like obsessed with this person and he was obsessed with me being obsessed with him. Like that was, no, I mean, it was a person that I think was what do you call it? Like an avoidant. And I was being very anxious. But through that process, I realized that was also a form of avoidance, right? And so I had to kind of like reflect a little bit about how my actions were bringing about something that wasn't really great. I was also just like crazy. And that was really annoying. But I feel like it gave me a lot of like creative inspiration, not only for the album, but also for kind of having a little bit more of a real conversation, because
with yourself.
With myself and with others. I just feel like sometimes people, even like when you like somebody, you kind of pretend that you don't. And I was just not doing that. I was like, I don't care if I'm making a fool out of myself. I'm committing to actually having that feeling.
Yeah.
And yes, it's like it's weird and whatever, and maybe inappropriate, but like I'm doing it and I'm committing. If that makes sense. I don't know. It's just everybody's always so fake about everything. And I wanted to say, no, I really like you. And maybe you don't like me. And I'm not going to show up at your house like a stalker or anything. Like it didn't get that far. But it was just this weird, almost like foolish love that I had to go through in order to kind of find love in the long run, if that made sense.
No, I think that makes sense. And I think like everyone has their own love and relationship journey. And it depends on like what kind of how relationships were modeled for you growing up. What's a healthy relationship? What's an unhealthy relationship? Where are you at with yourself? Are you a people pleaser? Are you an avoidant? Are you like, what are these different masks that you're wearing, and how can you learn and grow through them to figure out what you actually need in a relationship to make you happy? Because it is the most important decision you make at the end of the day, is who's your partner? Who's this person that's going to be like my ride or die? And how do I understand and learn like what does the healthy relationship for me look like? You have to have these, unfortunately, like unhealthy, toxic experiences. Not everybody does, but I think it's part of growth that helps you have that much stronger of a healthy relationship.
Yeah, I think it's also good for artists too. You know what I mean? We need to suffer. Otherwise, like, what am I going to write songs about? Being happy all the time? Like nobody wants to hear that. They just want to hear about like the bad times. It's okay. I've gone through that.
This makes me think of Taylor Swift and all her albums, and why everyone always says they're so popular, because they're like, she writes them out of pain and heartbreak.
Well, there's nothing better than a revenge song. You know what I mean? Like it's really, really satisfying if you're good at it. And like I happen to be pretty good at writing revenge songs. And then, you know, sometimes I'll see the person in the audience and I think about dedicating it to them. And sometimes I say their name and sometimes I don't. It's extremely fun.
There's a lot of power in being the musician with the love song. Yeah,
but you know, there's also like a lot of weakness in life, right? And like there's a lot of times in your life where you feel like powerless. And I think that that's a real theme for me. You know, why I'm so interested in justice is because I've seen so much injustice. So you kind of have to go through the miserable stuff in order to actually have something valuable to give somebody in terms of advice and relatability. Because sometimes you just want to feel like you're not the only one that went through something, right?
I mean, I think that's like the beauty of humanity is the shared experiences and the feelings and emotions. Wherever you're at in the world or in life, you know, we all at the end of the day have pain, suffering, love, warmth. We have all these same feelings. And how can we relate to each other?
Yeah. And also, like, how can you do it without feeling corny all the time? Like that's what we've gotten to this point where everybody's like, you know, one of the things that comes up is like, oh, should you wait 24 hours to reply to somebody? Like, why are we doing this? This is so stupid. Do you want to hang out? Yes or no? Like I just, and I get it because you're building up tension. There's something to be said for that, right? You don't want to be overly eager. But I think that there's something really refreshing about people being really honest and and earnest. I think there's like a lot of that is kind of lacking, and especially dating in Miami. Yeah, this is a rough city.
Dating in Miami is it's interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
It's
how we're calling traumatizing now. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't want to go down the dating in Miami rabbit hole. I'm not prepared for that today.
That's fair. Listen, forget all these dates. What people have to do is they have to stack their sats.
They got to stack their sats. That's the name of the podcast is Stack your sats.
Yeah. And also like you're diversifying, right? You know, you don't have to put all your eggs into the relationship basket. You want to be covering yourself on a number of different ways. And, you know, just like you go to the gym or you eat some salads or whatever it is, like you have to take care of your financial health as well.
Especially as a woman. And I think, you know, like I'd love to hear your thoughts on educating women in the space and helping women, because I think that's a lot of also some of the work and advocacy that you've done is specifically around women.
Yeah, I think that like, at the end of the day, money is freedom, right? And so a lot of women have been searching for freedom for a very long time now. And sometimes we still find ourselves in those old patterns. But the one thing that can really give you a lifeline is having that financial exit point, right?
Financial sovereignty, like just being able to, I think it's okay to be in a relationship and have, be with a provider man or have someone take care of you. But I think at the end of the day, like we as women need to have our own financial independence and financial sovereignty to actually show up healthier and happier in a relationship and not be in this place of lack or dependence, because it creates an unhealthy power imbalance, in my opinion. And I think just knowing that you have skills or you can, do something on your own, or having financial clarity around your relationship. If you have a prenup, or what happens if my husband dies, what happens, like just having that knowledge and power is so important that a lot of women don't have. And I'm very passionate about educating and bringing forward.
Yeah, I would say that like the last thing, like I said earlier, the last thing that I'm interested in is finance and tech. Seriously, like two of the most boring subjects I can imagine. But taking the time to learn about those things has made a lasting impact. It's changed my life completely. And especially when it comes to musicians, musicians oftentimes are asking me, oh, how do I make an NFT? Like, how do I get involved in crypto? What do I do to get involved in Bitcoin? And I'm like, buy Bitcoin. Like, I don't want to hear about your NFT. I want to hear about how you set up
your
a wallet.
dollar cost averaging Bitcoin every day or every week.
Well, listen, I agree. I like that as a method. Maybe that's not for everybody, but people should be able to learn how to buy a little bit of Bitcoin and just sit on that. And then once that goes up, then they're interested in it. I don't need to fight them about it. I just need to get them to buy a little bit of Bitcoin, and then they start looking at it, and then they start looking at it obsessively, and then they start going down the rabbit hole. And maybe they tell a friend, and then, eventually we all get Lambos.
So let's talk about Bitcoin versus the broader crypto market. Obviously, TatianaCoin was built on top of Bitcoin. What are kind of your thoughts on the altcoins and the broader crypto market?
So, like, we saw a lot of interest in meme coins this cycle, which I thought was really, really annoying, and it ate a lot of money. And it really appealed to that degenerate kind of mentality that a lot of people have. I mean, am I the person who can say that they're degenerates? I don't know. I think it's kind of worthless. But I think that it's also a failure to say that everything that's not Bitcoin is a shitcoin. I just think that's silly. I think that this technology can be used in a number of different ways. And I think that being able to invest in companies by investing in the token that represented the company, whether that's a security, I don't know. But like, I think that was really interesting. I think it really took down some of the barriers to entry for normies. And I think it gave people an opportunity to really learn in real time. So, if people want to vote with their dollars and invest in something that I think is a scam or that I think that is cool, like that's up to them. I hope that they take the time to learn about, the important things that are kind of the underlying principles of why we Bitcoin, right? So, but at the end of the day, that's up to that person. If they want to live a little rebellious life and they want to buy weird Solana stuff, then they can do that. Like, that's up to them.
That is their choice.
And also, it's not up to, like, so when we're building this music platform, we're not going to make it only for Bitcoin. I mean, I know that I could win over some maxis to say like, oh, it's only Bitcoin. I'm not a purist. Why would I be that? I think that, there could be things that are in the future that are better. And I'm not the person to judge that. I think offering artists something that's interoperable and that doesn't make them pick a lane, it doesn't make them pick with, oh, I'm only hanging out with the Bitcoiners and like, oh, I'm only hanging out with the ETH people. Like, there's like 7 of us all together. Can we just all find a way to work together? Because it's a really compelling new form of tracking art, of validating art, of creating art. And we should be able to interact with one another and not be so tribal, because it's like a tribe of like 4 people here and like 3 people there and like 7 collectors total. So like, what are we doing?
I totally agree with you. And I think like, so I've increasingly gotten involved in the crypto and the Bitcoin space over the last 2 or 3 years. And coming into it, I came from a very like Bitcoin maximalist perspective. I really only went to the Bitcoin conferences. I was really only talking to like these Bitcoin maxis. And now as I've zoomed out and looking at the space on a broader scale, I think when you look at the space on a broader scale, I think fundamentally the importance of crypto and technology and blockchain is far greater than being so attached to one coin specifically. Mm-hmm. And when you're in this space, it's still a very small industry. It's very what is the word? It's very incestuous in a lot of ways. And I think people get so focused on like whatever their specific coin is that it actually detracts from the greater purpose. And so, a few months ago, a year ago, I would have said, I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, whereas today I think actually the broader crypto market it's more important to understand it as a whole, even though I still will probably be a Bitcoin maximalist from my personal investment standpoint. Maybe some other coins, I don't know. I just repositioned everything on that. But I think I couldn't agree with you more. And I think the idea is like, let people have the choice.
Well, you have to experiment, because if everybody's just going to tell you you're horrible and you're a failed scammer loser before you even get out of the gate, how are you ever going to achieve anything? You know what I mean? Yeah. So everybody needs to stop being so judgmental. Although I think that, if investors were a little bit more personally responsible, it would be easier to leave them with the responsibility, right? Yeah. Because a lot of people don't want that. They want somebody to tell them what to do. So they're listening to this show. They want to know all the answers.
They want to know all the answers. Yeah. Well, the answers are that you need to do your own research and just try, I think, too. I mean, I come from a family of many generations of stock traders, and of course, I had guidance on trading and investments from a very, very young age.
That's a really unique thing. I don't think a lot of people
get that. Of people don't get that. And I have a half sister now. She's 7, and we got to spend a lot of time together over the pandemic. And one of the things that we did, I remember, it's like, this is a core memory for me, but we're sitting around the kitchen table, and my brothers are there, my dad is there, and we're messing around with our trading accounts. And I'm like, let's have, my little sister make her first trade. I'm like, what stock do you want to buy? And she doesn't really understand the concept, but we're like kind of dumbing it down for her. And we're like, okay, you like this toy. Like, this is the company that makes this toy. Do you want more of these toys? Mm-hmm. Do you believe in this toy? And of course she's like, yes, this is my favorite toy. I'm like, great. We're going to buy like a little allocation of this toy for you. And we had her like click the button, type the numbers in. And she was like 3 years old at this point in time. And it was the coolest thing ever. I mean, I don't know if she's going to remember that. I hope she remembers that. But it was like such a cool little thing to do. But anyway, all of this to say, being able to have that having the opportunity to just like get exposure like that for myself at a young age was so important. But it's also like, for other women, for other kids, people growing up, like just starting to learn and experiment. There's so many platforms you can actually like ghost trade, where you're not trading real money, you're buying things, you get to like see how it goes. Mm-hmm. That's a great way to get started.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of orange pilling going on for the children these days. And I'm here for it, and think about all those kids whose parents got them into Bitcoin when they were like 6 or 7. They're like all rich now. All their friends are jealous.
I know. There's a guy I know, he has a lot of grandchildren and he is like a total Bitcoin maximalist. Every one of his grandchildren gets a Bitcoin when they're born.
Oh, wow.
He is
very generous.
He has a stockpile of the Bitcoin, but he will like allocate 1 Bitcoin to each child when when they're born. And he has, I don't know how many grandchildren he has now, but he's interesting because he comes from like a very tech heavy background, and he is not somebody you would think of as a traditional Bitcoin maximalist, but given the
that's a very good gift.
It's a very good gift. Very good gift. So I want to talk about, can we talk about your personal connection to Ross Ulbricht?
Oh yeah, sure.
So what is the story there? And like also let's start with who he is.
Sure. So one of the main things that kind of like defined my time in Bitcoin was working to free Ross Ulbricht. So Ross is he's the creator of a website called the Silk Road, and the Silk Road was, very, very bad. People were selling drugs on there. It was kind of like an eBay for drugs. One of the things that people said that made it good was because drugs are voluntarily purchased, this actually made it a lot more safe because they would have ratings. So sometimes people they'll like die because they'll take a drug and it's not even the right drug, right? Because they're getting it on the street and it's like bad drugs. But anyway, so the Silk Road allowed you to buy high quality, top-notch drugs on the internet. Clearly the government wasn't a big fan because, that took away their black ops money and they can't have any competition. So they took Ross Ulbricht and they made an example of him. And so they gave him double life plus 40 years for all nonviolent crimes. Okay, drugs are bad. That's fine. But you don't give a person who founded a website double life plus 40 years. There was no violence associated with him. So anyway, very early on, I became friends with his mom, who was an incredible advocate for him. And so I started going to actually visit Ross, and we became very good friends. And so during that time, I thought, well, I needed to write a song that would encapsulate what I was learning about him. Because, you hear it, you're saying, oh, this drug guy, he's obviously a criminal. But actually there was like more to it. It was really a story of freedom. And so I wrote the Silk Road song, which I put on that album, Keep the Faith, which was the third album I funded with TatianaCoin. And when he was in prison, he took a picture of me that Libertarian photographer had taken, and he hand drew it. And so I took that hand-drawn picture and I put it as the album cover for Keep the Faith, because I wanted to show people this is why artists need artists' cryptocurrency of their own. This is why I need freedom of expression. If I was signed to a major record label, are they going to let me put some drug guy on the album cover? No. Maybe if I was in a hip hop album, they'd be like, yeah, that's cool. But like otherwise, it's going to get a thumbs down, right?
Right.
And I hate that control. I don't want anybody to tell me what kind of art I want to make. So it was this kind of perfect storm where, I was advocating for Ross, and we had a real life use case of why artist coins would be important, and this kind of trifecta of art, because the original photographer, Ross's artwork that he gave me, and then also the song itself, it was just really a neat thing. And after over 10 years of advocating on his behalf, everybody was very happy to find out that Donald Trump actually pardoned him. So I think the reason why he got the Libertarian vote was specifically because this was such an important issue to people. For people outside of Bitcoin, they might think like, again, who cares about this drug guy? But, the Silk Road was really about, it was about, what do you own? Do you own your body? Like, can you put whatever you want into your body? It's your body. You should be able to drink bleach if you want, which is like another kind of like crazy thing.
It's a very, like, fundamentally, it's a libertarian principle.
Exactly.
It's your
right.
body, your choice.
Yeah. And those are a lot of the original themes. You see what happened with Roger Ver and a lot of these kind of political persecutions. But Ross actually was able to escape the clutches of the state. He was a model prisoner. And so now he's out after 11 years of everybody working really hard. So that was a nice win. You usually lose in the fight against the overlords, but that was a win for everybody.
That was a win for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So for people who are like looking to get into the space, I know you talked a lot about musicians and the platform that you're building. What are some ways that you like recommend to your friends or family that they ask you, how can I get involved?
With Bitcoin or with music and like NFT stuff?
With Bitcoin.
With Bitcoin, I usually give them some podcasts of different people that I like, although I feel like my podcasts are not even out there anymore. Like I used to listen to Let's Talk Bitcoin, which is a really good one. And if people want some of the early days, I think Let's Talk Bitcoin is really good.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah, I think so. But Where do people start these days? I think really like getting a good wallet would be a good
cold
starting
wallet, you
point.
mean?
Yeah, but you know what? That's the thing. You got to live in reality, right? So I would tell somebody, oh, get a Trezor, get a Ledger, something like that. But then you know what happens? Then 3 years later, they call me and they say, oh, I forgot my password. Like, can you help me? And they think that I'm like their tech support. And I'm like, you have called the wrong place, honey. This is not it. But so I think like, finding a wallet that is recommended by people that you respect is like a good one. Like I like Edge. I'm always using Edge Wallet. I find it to be pretty easy for like a hot wallet that I keep on my phone. I think learning about storage is important, but you also can't lose your own passwords. If you're going to lose your own passwords, you got to really rethink it.
You have to rethink your strategy.
Yeah, exactly. There's services.
Yeah.
Well, there's also services that can help you kind of store your own Bitcoin. And I think that that's really important, and getting kind of like an education on it. There's a lot of really good local meetups and things like that I think that people can go to in person. But then you also have kind of sketchy people there that are kind of looking to prey upon you, right? So I think it's like a little bit of a matter of doing some research and finding who are the most trusted communities. And like what I like about some of the things that you've been putting together is that you're curating that for people.
Yeah.
When you hear Berklee Babes, you don't necessarily think like, oh, we're going to be learning about finance, but actually that's a really great feature. And I think it's really important to be a well-rounded babe. You have to have your finances in order.
You got to have your finances in order. You want to look hot while you're doing it, and you want to have healthy relationships. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
All right, let's do our lightning round. All right, Bitcoin or crypto?
Bitcoin, probably. I don't know. I mean, well, Bitcoin is a part of crypto, so maybe I'll say crypto.
You say, okay.
Yeah.
Self-custody or an exchange?
Come on, self-custody all the way. Even if you just be really good with writing down your passwords in a couple different places.
Indie label or direct to fan?
Honestly, sometimes I would say indie label because it takes a lot of.
That's not the answer I was expecting from you.
You know what? Because I'm sick and tired of doing everything myself. I think sometimes having a team is really important, and you shouldn't take that out of the equation.
Yeah. You got to have a good team behind you, even if they're contractors, fractional.
Yeah.
Having a team and systems is so important.
Well, systems I think are really challenging because, like, as an artist, I'm a little bit.
Yeah.
And I need to be more.
Yeah.
I think that habit building is something that I'm working on, building a habit of building habits.
Yeah. I can relate to that. Are you a time teller or a clock builder? I think musicians, creatives fall into that time teller bucket, and clock builder meaning somebody that like builds systems and sets things up to scale. Is that can be a learned skill or something people just have innately.
Yeah.
Next one is soft launch or hard launch?
I think soft launch. Because the thing is that you never really know when is the right moment to go forward. And I think that sometimes I wish that I had just gone forward without waiting for it to be absolutely perfect. I can appreciate the desire to have things be just right. But at that point, you're just never going to launch it at all. So
done is better than perfect.
Yeah. And also don't trust your engineers. They lie about timelines. They're total liars. No, I'm saying literally if they tell you it's going to be 2 weeks, you have to triple it. And I think that then maybe you're in the right ballpark. I think having that expectation early on when going into tech would really save people a lot of stress.
Yeah. Public diary or private life?
God, I like a public diary, but I think that these days it's become more, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze anymore. But I do I like sharing my life with people and getting, that juice from others.
Yeah. But maybe with a layer of a filter.
Well, you have to have a filter no matter what. Yeah. But I think also know your audience, right? If you're going to bare your soul, maybe don't do it in a place where everybody's just waiting for you to fail.
Yeah. But you also have to be able to take that vulnerable. You have to be able to be vulnerable and take that risk of putting yourself out there, because I think that's where people start to really connect with you.
Yeah, I think that in general people are not seeing, they're seeing a lot of controlled kind of presentation and nothing really natural. So I think when they, real recognizes real.
Yeah. All right, so where can everybody find you?
Well, they can find me in Miami. I gotta do some shows
Where
around
are
here.
your socials? Your
Fine.
website?
Okay. Well, I guess they're not going to show up at my house.
You don't want them to show up.
No, that would be a little creepy. Please don't do that. Unless like you have flowers, in which case maybe. No, I'm just kidding. So they can go to Queen Tatiana on Twitter, Tatiana Moroz Music on Instagram, on Facebook. I think I'm Tatiana Moroz Music again. So all over the place. And then my music is everywhere online that you can find it. So if people just look at TatianaMoroz.com, that'll be like the home base for everything else.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
That's a wrap on this episode of Stacked. If this one added value, share it with someone who's ready to level up their financial life. Subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave a rating and review. It helps us keep the show going and reach more people who are serious about becoming their own best asset. You can subscribe to our newsletter at www.stackedassets.co for weekly intel on Bitcoin markets, business, and living well. Follow along on socials at Stacked Assets or my personal at Emily Dempsey for more on Bitcoin business and building the life you actually want. I'll see you next week. Stay stacked.